after that incident, I was very withdrawn. I was very defensive. There's nothing wrong with being a victim. There's no shame in being a victim. Because if anything, the blame is on the person who offended you. So they took me to a place where other older boys raped me. If you truly love this person, you also need to remember that love can take rejection.
Okay.
True love takes rejection. There's cheap forgiveness, which is usually, this thing is not going to disturb me, I'll move on with my life.
Yeah.
You by yourself cannot manufacture forgiveness in your heart unless you have experienced it of the Lord. Survivors of sexual trauma do not need forgiveness. They need healing. The other thing that sexual violation does, it shifts their sense of safety. It's like they get more attracted to danger and chaos than being in safe places.
Yeah.
Because the violation happened in a safe place. It's subconscious. It's like death calls you.
So Faith, for someone who's meeting you for the first time and they would like to understand who you are, what would you say to them?
What would I say to them, or what would my friends tell them about me?
We can take both angles.
So what I hear people tell me, like, you know, when you meet someone and they're like, I've heard a lot about you. You're like, okay, what's that you've heard about me? And then people would be like, you love children, you're creative, you are such a vibe, you have energy, good energy. And there's depth as well. People talk to me, or, you know, we hang out and they leave saying that, yo, okay, that was deep. There are people who find me intense.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I constantly hear from my classmates, is that I relate well with people. So I can relate with any age. Yeah, I connect well with all ages. Yeah, so for me, what would I say about Faith? So Faith is a loving, cheerful human who lives every day to remind people that they can still thrive in life no matter what they've gone through.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the side of the friends for a while here.
Okay.
When your friends say you are deep, what do you think that means?
I'm such a reflective person, and I bring it everywhere I go to. So I would just, like, a normal conversation would turn out to be a reflective moment.
So you've said before that you underwent some sort of sexual assault when you're growing up. Are you able to tell me what that was?
Yeah, probably not in a therapy-friendly kind of way, but just enough for the public.
What is therapy-friendly kind of way?
Well, therapy gets graphic.
How does it become
When you're
graphic?
processing. When you're processing.
When you sit down with the therapist?
Yeah, because you know what happens is, especially traumas that involved the body. You see, like sexual trauma, the crime scene is the body.
Okay. You're walking around with the crime scene every day. Is that what you mean? Okay.
Yes. And so, the only way to overcome trauma, because what trauma does, it mutes your voice. So healing happens when you take back your voice.
What is taking back your voice?
Taking back your voice is placing the blame where it truly belongs.
Because initially the blame is
usually on the victim.
You blame yourself.
Yes.
It happened to me because
I was there.
Okay.
I accepted. And you know, as a child, you think you would overpower that person. Like, just think of a 5-year-old being violated sexually. How would they save themselves?
It's
or even a
impossible.
10-year-old,
It's
or even a
impossible.
12-year-old, even an 18-year-old, you know. Because what perpetrators do, they groom you. So grooming is where they make you believe them, trust them, look up to them. then
Is-
there's a connection.
Is that by like giving you candy? I mean,
Yes,
if you're
and
10 years,
treating you.
12 years.
Yeah, treating you in a special way, better than other people. They even have a special name for you. They would high five other children, but they would hug you.
But I mean,
Affectionately.
isn't that what I think all adults do to young children? They
That's
treat
what
them especially?
perpetrators use.
But then how would you
because
differentiate from-
a child wants to be loved. A child feels nice being accepted, isn't it? So perpetrators use that because they know if they came, like an ugly person, a child would definitely run away.
But who comes to a child as an ugly person? I feel like everybody who comes around my daughter is very friendly and, always high-fiving them and hugging them or whatever and calling them, asking them what their name is, of course, is either calling them their name or blah, blah, like grandma, stuff like that.
Okay, if you notice when I hugged your daughter, I asked her, can I hug you?
Okay.
So perpetrators don't usually have, they don't respect children's autonomy.
Okay.
And they don't respect their boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, if a child, because children are very oblivious and they're just very free and adventurous.
Yeah.
Because a child can just come over here and just lift up their dress and they want to show you their new underwear.
Mm-hmm.
Or
True.
they want to show you, probably, if they haven't been told, they want to show you their genitalia. Because they're now fascinated, they've just discovered it. They would just want to do that openly.
Yeah.
A safe person would let them cover and not indulge or engage. But a perpetrator would take advantage of that, would go further with their naivety. So that's why survivors of victims tend to be silent because, but this person was friendly, this person was my friend, this person was kind to me, this person is my uncle, this person is my auntie, this person fed me.
Yeah.
And then they attacked me. Then the other thing that makes it confusing is sex engaged in whatever form, whether voluntarily or not voluntarily, still has the sense of pleasure because sex is meant to be pleasurable. That one you cannot control.
Why are you telling me that a 5-year-old, 10-year-old is going to find sex pleasurable?
There's she wouldn't find the violation pleasurable.
Yeah.
But there's a way when you manipulate the genitalia, some sense of pleasure is awakened. Okay. So ideally, probably, because arousal begins from still at tender age, because that's how they get sexual arousal.
Oh, arousal. Okay,
yeah,
yes.
Sexual arousal. Because you see, they can say, "I want to pee." They know how it feels. They can say, "I want to poop." They know how it feels. But they don't know. They don't usually know what to do with arousal, and that's why sometimes you'll find some of them fidgeting with their. I think 5, 6.
Okay.
I can't really put an finger to the exact age, but I know there's usually some sense of arousal that comes up, and that's what fascinates them with their genitalia. They realize, they discover. You find that like a boy would begin, playing around with their penis. The girl would get fascinated with their vulva, like they don't want to have their underwear, So it's just a fascination. It doesn't mean that child has been violated, because that's usually a sign of a child who's been violated, child who plays around with their genitalia. But then, because of just nature, as in but it's not as intense. It's not as intense.
The arousal is not as intense.
No, it's not it's just something that is
somewhere there.
Yeah, somewhere there. And it's normal. It's normal because you're sexual beings and because there's nothing wrong with arousal.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. It just shows that you're human. So because of the arousal that is felt when a child is being violated, you see all these things are happening.
Yeah.
So there's terror, there's fear, there's some sense of many other painful or unpleasant emotions. Then suddenly there was a liking to it. So then you wonder, confusing. Yes, it becomes very confusing because even after you'll find that a lot of times you'll find that if you hear stories of many survivors of childhood sexual trauma, you'll find that they'll always, they always go back, not willingly, but it's something that you're not able to break off. Think of it
always
as...
go back, meaning what?
Even when this person comes back and gives them cookie and and abuses them again and again, they're not able to like
Speak up.
or even stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't stop it unless we begin having conversations in our homes. So the conversations are around, like warning. Probably we'll get there. Remind me, we'll get there. So you'll find that so the curiosity can be taken further to either the child exploring with themselves or the child wanting to explore with other children.
Mm-hmm. So they want to go and they start having sexual activity with their peers.
Yeah, with their peers or with tools around them. Because think of it as a switch. That when you switch on, it goes on. It can't. There's no off for it.
Once you start having sexual experiences,
Yeah.
as a child or as an adult or whatever, the moment you start having those experiences, you can't turn them off again.
Yeah,
because
you can't
you've
turn it
experienced
off.
them.
Yeah,
You
and
said
it's harder.
tools. What are tools?
They can play around with tools. They can take their doll and they want to engage intercourse with. They want to have intercourse with the doll, or they just want to insert things. Or if it's the
Into
boy,
a
into
girl
their
will want to.
vulva. Yeah.
Okay, so
If-
things are like pens.
Anything, because again, it also depends on what was initiated.
Okay.
Or how it was initiated, like how the abuse happened and what was used.
Okay.
So there are people who use objects on children. There are those who will just insert their penis. So people who use objects mostly are for both boys and girls. So it could be a female perpetrator, mostly. Female perpetrators mostly use objects. And if it's a male perpetrator who's really sick in their head, they too can use objects.
So you're saying female perpetrators use objects on boys?
Even girls.
Oh.
So on boys, it's on their like sodomy, kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That is very sick on so many levels.
It
and
is.
I can't even comprehend it.
It is. And a lot of that were not processed. That's what usually exposes children to same-sex attraction, gender dysphoria. It's because, you see, ideally, how our bodies, even if you just follow how our bodies mature, sex is ideal for a matured adult.
Yeah.
Because then you have self-control, you know where to indulge, you know when not to indulge, and other appropriate ways of indulging, right? Now, exposing a child to that and the intensity of sexual arousal makes it so hard for them to live through each day of life.
Yeah.
And sometimes that which they're not able to address physically then ends up also tormenting them mentally. Because now it's like fast forwarding their growth from a 5-year-old to a 18 or a 20-year-old, or even 25-year-old person. So that's too much. That's like you have fast forwarded their limbic area and they have to live with that for all those years. That's why
Forever,
you find that,
basically.
Yeah, unless it's processed now, somehow they can learn how to live life like a normal person. You'll notice that sometimes in teenagehood, because of the intensity of the trauma, they tend to engage in, because they have dissociated for a long time, they tend to engage in behaviors that help them to cope. So either engage in alcohol, like in illicit behaviors, taking drugs. It's just a way of shutting the noises in their mind.
Yeah.
And it helps them cope. And it's also because they're dissociated. So they want to super dissociate, Others engage in video games and TV all the time. They're just finding ways of getting out of their body or getting out of their lives to be in a space where there's some sort of control. Because there's shame that comes with it. There's silence that comes with it. There's guilt, false guilt that comes with it.
Yeah.
And then there is now you not being able to regulate your body. For some children, they could have developed STIs.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes they don't say, So there's a lot that happens, so that by the time someone gets to a place where they are willing to even go talk about it and process it in therapy, it messes up their lives, because there are those who now end up wanting to engage into sexual, with multiple partners,
Yeah.
to try and get revenge, or to try and get control back,
Yeah.
or because that's how, because sex was introduced to them violently, they can only get aroused, when there's violence in sex,
I
yeah,
understand.
you get.
Yeah.
So you'll find that there's someone who then gets aroused until someone either
Slaps
beats them
them,
up
yeah.
or something like that, or cuffs them.
I hear they call it BDSM.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did. I'm glad you said it. I'm glad it came from you. So a lot of that comes from how sex was introduced to them. So that's how they believe. And then therefore some people, that felt like someone embraced them or someone wanted them. So they'll end up engaging in multiple sexual behaviors with multiple partners, to just have the sense of being wanted or being accepted.
Yeah.
Why, you ask? Because we are sexual beings. Our sexuality forms part of our identity. That's why if somebody has gender dysphoria,
What is gender dysphoria?
So gender dysphoria is when someone has a confusion, or they're confused about their gender. They could be
Okay.
having, or they're confused about their sex. And it's not something that they can control. With therapy, it helps, like they can settle on
One.
the ideal gender that they have.
And it could be the one that there wasn't assigned to them.
So let me tell you how it should. Yeah. So the difference is usually how the confusion comes in, that they have a female sex, but then they feel like a male human. So it's actually a thing, by the way. It's actually a thing, and so with a lot of it is usually rooted to trauma, unprocessed trauma.
Yeah.
When a lot of times when you work with clients and they get to heal those childhood experiences, they gain the confidence of moving forward with a gender that they're comfortable with,
Yeah.
or in a way that they're comfortable, that doesn't bring mental upsets.
Or
If
more
I could
confusion.
say that. Yeah, or more confusion. Yeah.
Okay, so I interrupted you. You were saying
No
something
problem.
about gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
You were saying that in ways that it could show up in gender dysphoria or other things that you're talking about. Before I interrupted you to ask you what.
Oh
is
yeah.
gender dysphoria.
Oh yeah. Like trauma. Yeah. So you'll find that especially when the sexual abuse has occurred in childhood, let's say below 12 years, because at least 13, when puberty has checked in, you sort of know where you lie. But if these things happened, because that's when, like, your body, your sexual, how do you call them, your sexual hormones now become more, you become more aware. Yeah, more pronounced. And even changes in your genitalia also happen in a pronounced way
Yeah.
during puberty. But below that, Joab, can be very disturbing. It truly changes the structure of a child's brain.
Yeah.
And because they have no language for it, they live believing, because you see children are egocentric, I mean.
Yeah.
They live believing it's their fault, something is wrong with them, Unless they hate somewhere else, they would never know. Then just keep quiet.
Yeah.
So
unless
when
they
we-
hear what someone.
Unless they hear someone talking about. So I'll tell you, like, for me, the first sexual violence happened when I was 5. Then another happened when I was 10. Another happened when I was 12. So those are the childhood experiences. When it happened when I was 5, I think, I can't remember the exact age, but at some point, maybe around 9 there, I remember there's a teacher who talked about something in church, and it was in the lines of boys don't play with girls sleeping, with each other naked, or those are not good games. I think that's all I can remember. Because after the 5-year-old experience, that thing introduced me into a dark space. By dark, I mean I was very jolly, happy child.
Before 5.
Before 5, like before the incident.
Yeah.
After that incident, I was very withdrawn. I was very defensive. I think that's when also my social anxiety checked in. And I was very terrified. Like I was fearful. Let me just say anxious, super anxious. So when this teacher talked about it, that's when I connected. Oh, what actually happened to me was wrong. That shouldn't have happened.
So all this time, you thought that other children also have the same experiences, or like it's normal for everybody to be undergoing this?
I think so. I don't know. Did I? I don't think so. I dissociated mostly.
Okay.
I dissociated mostly because now it helped me live by each day. And I was really afraid.
That it would happen again? Or
Yeah, or I'd be punished or something.
did you know that it was whatever happened was bad?
No.
So why were you
I knew
afraid
it was
that you'd
bad. I knew it was bad because I knew it was like something bad was done to me.
Then why did you think that you'd be punished?
Because I left our house. These children called me and I joined them.
Okay.
So it was so also let me now help you understand why I think I'm also very cautious with friendships, because it was a setup. So older girls, like class 8, I think grade 8 age, if I can remember well, called me. I never used to play with children where we used to stay. Just used to play with my brothers, because I found them hostile, and I was very, very gentle. I'm a very gentle person, by the way. So I remember, like, if they would find me playing, they would come take my toys, and they'd be really rough.
Yeah.
So that day, my family, my brothers weren't there. So I was left in the house. Normally, like, if I wasn't going to school, I would sleep in the afternoon. So I can be awake for dinner.
Yeah.
Used to sleep a lot around dinner time. So that day I was left in the house, and I was sleeping, and then I had, like, it sounded like a mob, because a few days prior there was fire next to where we used to stay, and it was around 8 p.m. and I remember there were so many voices, but the fire was put out.
Yeah.
So that day when I was sleeping, I thought
it's burning.
something,
Your home
but
is burning.
yeah, but they were calling me, like,
Yeah.
the children are calling me, Tina, come we play. And I was, because I've never played with them.
You're 5 and these kids are 14 and they're calling you.
Yes, 14, a mix,
Yeah.
they were 10, 11, I think, if I'm not wrong. So I went, and because of the 14-year-old, I went, because now I felt safe. I was like, there's a older person,
yeah.
so these are the ones. And I think that's why, probably that also tells why I don't relate. I struggle relating with my peers, because the other girls and the boys used to take my toys or my peers.
Okay, I see.
I was like, you guys are not safe. Younger are safer, or older are safer.
Yeah.
So I went, and then I won't go into the details of the attack, but it happened. And so from there, it made me fear females in a big way, because they set me up. Yeah.
I mean,
So they took me to a place where other older boys raped me. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. And then, so what was around it is, it's something that they used to do. And I think they had ran out of the girls that they were using.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, if these guys didn't just sit down one morning and say, you know what, let's go to Tina, is what they used to call you, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to Tina's place today.
Yeah.
And
And it's
since you
because
say-
my brothers were not there.
Okay.
I think if I wasn't home alone, that would never have happened. Since then, I remember there's one of the boys or a girl. Somebody told one of my brothers because they were like, Takusema, like I'll report you to their brother, to her brother. So there's one of my brothers who knew, and I think he followed up and fought them. Since then, I've never been left home alone. So my brothers would take me wherever they were going.
Mm-hmm.
They never left me alone. I don't think.
So you think your brothers understood exactly what happened?
I think this
to you?
particular one knew.
Okay.
I don't know if he told the others because the others I think didn't. I don't know if they knew. I don't think. But there's this one. I think two of them knew, and since then I was never left home alone.
Yeah.
And since then now, my other brother started teaching me how to defend myself. Like fighting physically. Yeah. Because it's like, we won't be here all the time, and you need to know how to protect yourself.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that made it also so confusing for me was because they gave me some money. So they used to collect money.
Who, the kids?
Yeah. So these children were acting pawn using other children while collecting money. If you want to come watch, you pay.
Okay.
So the confusion was, but they gave me money. So do I have to say or I don't say?
So they gave you, what was this money for?
It was like, I think 5 shillings or 6 shillings or something. Because
Is
I
it
remember
like
there were coins.
Are they like apologizing or saying, are they paying you?
I think they were, I don't know, probably payment. They're like, go buy yourself something. They just gave me money. So like, you'll come next time we play the game. Never went back. Because it was painful. Super painful. It was painful. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was painful.
And
really ugly. Yeah.
And
like no child should go through that.
And you said it was a group of them.
Yeah, 3. So they would take turns. It was painful because, at that time my genitalia also hasn't formed so well for sexual intercourse. So it was painful. It was painful. I think it's an experience I wouldn't want anybody to have. Yeah.
Me too. And I'm so sorry that you underwent this.
Thank you.
And so at what point then do you find, you said that there's a lot of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
I want to believe fear. You probably fear people now.
Yeah. Not really fear, but I think I'm just cautious.
Well, not now.
Or then
at that point.
Yeah,
after,
I was.
Mm-hmm.
I was. I think when now it happened again now, because the other one, when I was 10, it happened on my way to school. That was somebody who used to observe me on my way to school, and again, I won't go into the details. And then the other one when I was 12 was like my Sabbath school teacher. So now that made me fear men. Mm-hmm. Besides my brothers and the other family brothers that I told you about.
Yeah, the 10 brothers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Other male humans were not safe to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was so terrible that I remember at some point there's a time I would sit in the house with my dad and I would never sit close to him. It was that bad. Mm-hmm. And it was bad. Like to a point that even in my my 20s, you know how church sometimes you'd leave church to go visit a church member who probably didn't come, or probably somebody lost their loved one and church is just going there.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, fine. So Faith, you'll go with this group. And madam, I was always like, hope there's a woman in that car.
Group, yeah.
I couldn't, it's even when you're having intercessory prayers in church, where's Joe holding hands with them, my hands would shake, my hands would sweat.
Yeah.
There's a time I just requested some lady to pray with another male person so I can pray with someone else. And then she was like, Kwani is going to eat you. He's a human being and you're all God's children. She didn't understand what it was. And
most people didn't, I think. I believe.
Yeah, because, of course. And I feel we need to learn to respect people and their boundaries. Like if someone says they don't want to do something, we don't force them. Mm-hmm. Because we don't have to know the backstory for us to respect another person's voice.
I think this is interesting that you just brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
have you ever had an experience where you have a friend of yours and they're telling you, hey, I got this brother, or I got this cousin of mine, or I got this friend, and maybe you should try dating them, or maybe you should go on a coffee date with them or something like that, get to know them a little bit better. Have you had that interaction with a friend of yours or a family member of yours, and you tried to say no, but they insist on it?
Yeah, I think I've had people trying to hook me up, but I outrightly say no. And if they insist, I just don't engage them any further. Yeah.
But then how do you think we could find ways of enlightening? I mean, of course, forums like this pod enables people to see, to see this other side of why people say no to some things. Maybe the kind of a bit of a better treatment a better approach that would be needed. But how can we find ways of empowering other people to say no, and that no is accepted as not like a no, I don't feel like it, but as a hey, no, because there's something deeper that underlies this?
I think just knowing that no is a complete sentence, that's a good place to begin with. And also putting the blame in the right place. The blame is not on the person saying no. The blame is on this person who's not respecting the other person's no. If you truly love this person, you also need to remember that love can take rejection. Okay. True love takes rejection. You are a parent. There are times you just want to hang out with your baby. But she's like, no, tata, apana. She just wants to walk away. And at that time, we probably just want a hug because life feels like it has boxed you a good one, right? Or just want to play with her, just curious. But she's like, apana, no. And she walks away.
Yeah.
You respect that. You don't force her, come back here, I'm your father. You have to. No, you don't do that.
Yeah.
So we need to learn to say no ourselves. Then we can allow other people to say their no's, and we respect their no's without having to know the backstory. Because sometimes the no can be shaky because they're afraid of being shamed or being punished.
Yeah.
You understand? So the no may feel shaky, or it could sound as though, you know what they say about people pleasers, like they are asking you something indirectly, like sometimes just read into what is not being said. You can tell from the body language. You can tell them, I notice you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Is it something you want to talk about? If you don't feel comfortable talking about it, it's okay. If you don't want to do it right now. Yeah.
At what point do you become comfortable enough to share this with, I don't know who you share it with, but must have been some authority figure in your life, someone who was older than you, or a parent or something like that. So at what point do you become brave enough, and what led to that bravery? Yeah.
Good question. So we had gone for our youth congress. I remember I was 19 then. And then, but they all along, I never used to, I think someone's used to pass me, bypass me.
Because they're both complicated, and maybe because the people preaching were not interesting to
It's also
kids.
because I used to feel dirty.
Okay.
Because you also remember, we grew up in an era where purity culture was a thing.
Yeah, so you felt like God had abandoned you.
You are not a virgin, because that's what they say. You're not a virgin. And so you aren't pure. And so you'll be punished, you're dirty.
I'm feeling bad here. I'm feeling bad for you because I feel like this is your entire life you're talking about. I mean,
yeah.
I started being aware of life when I was 5 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel bad because I feel like for you, you didn't have an opportunity to experience life.
Innocence.
Ever.
The innocence. But here's the beauty. You know what? One thing I love about God now, after now I learned him for who he really is that the promise, it's in Isaiah 61, if I'm not wrong, that says that he will give us beautiful ashes. That's where now I'm coming to.
Yeah.
We're in this youth congress, and they were talking about, so Pastor, I remember it was Pastor Odhiambo.
Philemon Odhiambo?
David.
Okay.
David, yeah. May the Lord keep blessing him. So his one was preaching. Then he was talking about, he was preaching along Songs of Solomon, where it says, daughters of Zion, do not awaken love before its time. So in my head, I was just like, but if something wasn't relevant, I learned how to block things from a very young age.
Yeah.
And I'll just be in my world. I used to draw a lot. It kept me going. Besides sleeping. So Sam here, the last part of the sermon is what I heard when he said, I remember there was a joke at his G, her chest is like the walls. So then the joke was, like their sisters, because it's the brothers who are talking about it, their sisters' breasts haven't even grown yet or grown enough. That's why, that was the illustration. And then he goes out to say, I know some of you were introduced into sexuality without your consent. Immediately, my antennas went up. And I sat up, by the way. Mm-hmm. They listened to him, looked at him. I remember there were I think 5 minutes of that sermon. I think that's all I got from that conference.
Yeah. That
transformed my life, because he said, God does not condemn you for that. It wasn't your fault. And should you want to talk to someone about it, someone to help you, you can come see me and Elder so-and-so. Or Elder so-and-so, because there were 2 speakers.
Yeah.
And then I waited. Again, because I think by that time I didn't even care if people, whatever people thought. Because you know how people would be nosy. Mm-hmm. They're like, you're staying behind.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I stayed behind. And I spoke. I think that was it the very first time? Not really. I think the first time I talked to, remember that best friend of mine whom I borrowed shoes?
Yeah.
The violation that happened when I was 12, she's the one whom I told.
Yeah.
Because that day I ran from that place to their home. Mm-hmm. But telling an adult was this elder. Mm-hmm. And I just opened up to him. And I'm glad he told me sorry. He had compassion, really deep compassion. He had the fatherly love. I also grew up, our dad left our family when I was 13. Yeah. And I think growing up with that gap also sort of broke me. And that
Did it
also
make you distrust men more?
Yes. Now that also sealed it. Just sealed it completely.
But you had brothers who were...
So what you also don't know, probably what I also didn't say is, I think I grew up knowing I'd turn out to be a boy somehow. Because you see, in my head, it felt like all my brothers were born like me. And then slowly they grew penises.
Became transformed into men. At what point did it dawn on you that people are born male and female?
You see in puberty, you see how the male balls drop.
Yes.
In puberty. Mm-hmm. So in women, I think it's the labia minora.
Yes.
That's what it's called, I think.
Well, the majora and the minora.
Minora. Mm-hmm. They grow, they gain more structure in puberty.
Yes.
They gain more structure, and I think they also sort of grow in length or something. Mm-hmm. So I think when that happened, I was like, you guys just wait.
I'm almost there.
I am soon becoming a boy, and I'm going to revenge on all of you. Nobody will bully me.
What? So where do you take the science that is taught in class 5,
which
6?
Science? It wasn't even deep. The class 5 science wasn't what I know right now. I wish we were taught what I know right now.
Okay. So in class 5, the teacher just explained these are parts of a female
and it's not and it's not even I think it was just an illusion. Like what is usually on the textbook is not usually it's not anatomically correct. Anyway, this is just me protesting. Okay, let me take back.
No,
let me get back.
At what point do you realize? Okay. Mm-hmm.
So now see, it was in teenagehood or late teenagehood. That's when I think I almost discovered it, or I discovered it.
So I think what I want to understand is, at what point you talk to the preacher, the pastor, and the pastor shares this with you. The pastor gives you this level of comfort. But then from there, do you then go on and become comfortable to talk to, I don't know, your family about this?
So I think it took another 10 years for me to share it with my family.
Yeah.
For me, that was a healing point, that somebody heard me and made me realize that it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
And I loved the anger I saw on his face because it felt protective.
Yeah.
Because the thing with dissociation is dissociation. It's a way of surviving, but it also keeps you from. I think we dissociate because of the helplessness that comes with sitting with particular emotions,
Yeah.
especially sense of helplessness and vulnerability and sense of being a victim.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being a victim. There's no shame in being a victim because if anything, the blame is on the person who offended you.
Yes.
But because like being weak and being a victim is looked down upon many times, you want to run away from it. It's not a good feeling. But if someone comes and comforts you there, if there's co-regulation, then you're also able to borrow compassion that you're receiving from this person. You're also able to borrow from yourself.
Yeah.
And then be compassionate with yourself, even as you navigate the next level of your healing experience.
Yeah.
So sitting with this man really helped me. I think what I struggled with was he said that I have to forgive them. For me that time, actually he read from me from the scriptures. And I think from there, I continued living with a sense of guilt.
After the reading of the scripture,
Yes.
you started living with guilt because he told you to
Because now I
forgive them.
can't forgive these people. So then God can't forgive me. Do you understand?
Okay, I feel like that is twisted though.
It is because, you see that scripture, many times we pick it out of context. That scripture,
What is that scripture?
I can't remember it's which
Or-
verse,
or
but I
what-
think
what
it's
does
a
it say?
verse. It's a verse after, I think I'll find it, or you can
Okay.
Google it. It's a verse after the Lord's Prayer. I think it's Uko, either Matthew 5 or Matthew 6 down that talks about, I think it's Matthew 5 towards the end, or Matthew 6
Yeah.
towards the end, talks about, I think it's after the Lord's Prayer. Then it goes ahead to say, if you do not forgive others, even your heavenly Father will not forgive you. But you see, it's talking to people who already have a relationship with God. People who've already experienced forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's not talking to someone who's now learning how to vibe with God. It's not talking to someone who hasn't walked with God or hasn't experienced God's forgiveness.
Yeah. Let's put up this verse on the screen. It's Matthew 6 verse 14, I think.
Okay.
For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father would also forgive you. But if you do not forgive your sins against But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive you your sins.
What's
So
the
this
previous
is-
verse?
The previous verse is, and lead us not into temptation.
Oh, it's the
that's
end of the prayer.
end of the
So you
prayer.
understand the prayer is an intimate conversation with God, someone you have a relationship with.
Yeah.
So then you're practicing what you have experienced from Him.
Yeah.
So imagine your daughter is 16
Yeah.
and she's now free to, come back home, probably a little late. Maybe they have a party in school.
Yeah.
And then, or she's hanging out with her friends. And then you tell her, honey, I would like you to be back by 7 p.m. or 7:30. We close the doors. So because you've had a relationship with her, a good relationship with her, how do you imagine she would respond? How would she respond to that rule? Because it's a rule.
Well, I would imagine that it's hard
So you have a good
It's
relationship.
hard for me to reconcile this because I'm not sure I will be those people to tell my daughter, hey, you gotta be home by this time.
Okay,
But-
let's just imagine
but
there's
if I
like a
was-
safety thing.
Yeah, if it was, then I would feel bad if she said that she doesn't want to come. So my expectation is that she agrees to.
She would
show up.
agree.
Yeah.
So she's 16. You have been having this loving, supportive relationship with her. So when you request her, because it matters to you that she's home by 7 because of her safety, and you won't be with her, she agrees. Like she will follow. She will understand. She won't
Yeah.
have to ask, why are you asking me? Why do I have to follow? It's
Hopefully,
because you
yes.
already have a relationship with her.
Yeah.
So that scripture or that chapter was addressing people who already have a relationship with God, not people who do not know God or don't have a relationship with God. So this is someone who has experienced God's forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
because forgiveness is a God thing.
Yeah.
He gives you, and then you extend it to another person.
Mm-hmm.
You by yourself cannot manufacture forgiveness in your heart unless you have experienced it of the Lord.
Okay. That is possible. But from where I stand,
So that's one. That's
Yeah.
one. Cleared from your heart. And how it looks like is
Mm-hmm.
naming the offense, acknowledging the pain and how it affected you, choosing to bear the consequences of another person's action without wanting to revenge on them, and living life without wanting to revenge. Revenge does not also
but
mean
can't you be able to leave without wanting to revenge, without forgiving them? I mean,
Can't you
I
live
can decide.
without-
I can decide. Hey, you know what? I'm not gonna forgive you, but this thing is not gonna be held over
it
me.
won't
I'm not.
it won't
I don't
disturb
eat
me.
into me. It won't
So
disturb
what
my
yeah,
peace.
so what happens is it's usually buried.
Okay.
We can bury it. Our minds
So you
have
want to
that
tell
capacity.
me you've forgiven everybody in your life who've wronged you since you were a kid?
So let me tell you, offenses bear different weights. But there's a time I did an activity where I wrote names of people whom I had held grudges for.
Yeah.
Some people, it was just an imaginary offense. Some people, I feel they just made a comment and I just got offended.
Yeah.
I had to do that for my own peace,
Yeah.
and for my freedom. So I just wrote down their names, wrote the offense, and then there are those that I wrote letters, of course, not delivered, and then got rid of the papers. That's what therapy does as well, by the way. It gives you that freedom. So the deeper way of forgiving, there's cheap forgiveness, which is usually, this thing is not going to disturb me, I'll move on with my life.
Yeah. And there's expensive forgiveness.
But you see, that's not being just, because the part of you that was violated or was offended, someone has to stand for them.
Yeah.
And this person is you. Another version of you has to stand for them by saying, it's wrong that this person did this to you. You didn't deserve to experience this. There's no excuse for it. And you don't have to continue having the connection with them if you don't want to be with them. You can press charges if you want. Forgiveness doesn't mean erasing the consequences of another person's action.
Yeah.
That's just how God deals with us as well. That's how his justice system is. So at that point, he left me there. Like, even talking about it, I think I can remember the posture I had and how my heart felt. It felt so cold and stuck and frozen. And I remember him praying. I just told him, it's very, very hard. I don't know how to do that. Then he prayed and I left, and I kept walking with some deep sense of guilt. Because if you can't forgive, God will
not forgive you.
But
But
that's
what
not
is God
the truth.
forgiving you from here, though? At that
And that's
point, if
why
you're standing.
my conflict was survivors of sexual trauma do not need forgiveness.
Exactly.
They need healing,
Exactly.
not forgiveness. You do not demand them to forgive. They do not need forgiveness. They need healing. When I have healed, when the body has healed, the body will have safety enough to process now that forgiveness process.
So your body heals and then you forgive the perpetrator.
So what
you're
happens
saying?
is, so so let me help you understand now what forgiveness looks like around that. It is giving up my power to harm you for harming me.
Okay.
Understand? Or giving up my power to avenge you for harming me. So then I take back that power, because every time I remember the offense and I'm like, hey, it's so-and-so who did this to me. So-and-so is the one who did this to me. So I take back that power because, fine, so-and-so did this to me, but this is my life now. I'm not going to let them to continue ruining my life moving forward.
Were you seeing these people as you were all growing older, past? I
No,
don't know.
what helped me is now the change of environment really helped. So
Yeah.
now I didn't get to see them. But for the Sabbath school teacher, I saw him for some time. It really messed up my church life that time. It really messed up my...
Because the reason I'm asking this is, of course you've answered the fact that you probably stopped seeing them at a certain point. But you go to a church and a minister of the church, the same person who, the same title of a person who abused you, is the one asking you to forgive this other church person. So don't you feel
It was conflicting.
conflicting.
It also broke my relationship with God because I couldn't understand why He couldn't forgive me. I mean, couldn't protect me because I was 5, man.
Yeah.
Then the
Exactly.
others, I'm like, really? You
Including
know?
this guy who was supposed to protect you inside a church
Yeah.
setting.
Yeah. Kwanzaa he groomed me so well. I think he noticed. The other thing that perpetrators identify is children who are, I'd say, lonely or vulnerable. Because
Yeah.
a vulnerable child, you can pick a vulnerable child in the circle or in a group. You can tell. It's also because we have mirror neurons and we are drawn to protect, to provide, to care for. So when we see someone in a vulnerable state, our natural instinct is to want to help that person.
Yeah.
That's just how we are wired.
As
We are
humans.
wired for care, So that's how you're usually able to find someone who's vulnerable in a group, And when perpetrators identify that, it's a very easy target for them. Because all they do is give you breadcrumbs. Like they'll just be making you happy, feel nice, feel special. Then they attack you when you're less suspecting.
Yeah.
So
When you let your guard down.
when you've let your guard down. Yeah. So even after this particular teacher transferred to a different church, life still didn't feel safe. Like even just walking to the shops and life just didn't feel safe. Yeah, life didn't feel safe. So back to the forgiveness thing, it is taking back your power to heal. Because every time I remember and I'm holding the grudge, it almost feels like that thing is happening again and again, and this person has power over me. But how taking back this power means is, yes, they violated me in this way, but this is my life. They don't get to control my life. In as much as they didn't hear my no, that doesn't mean that I don't have to say no, or I'm not worthy of showing up, or I'm not worthy of good things, no?
Yeah.
I'll take back my power to choose the people I want to have around me, people who feel safe. Because sometimes a child will tell you, like now when someone is processing their childhood trauma, they'll tell you they felt something, but they just didn't know what it was. You see the gut feeling I'm telling you about? Now, on children, they have a high alert. You'll just check. You're going with a child somewhere and they just don't want to hang out with someone.
I see that all the time.
Yeah.
Karen is a very friendly child. My daughter is a very friendly child.
Yeah.
And, she wants to hang out with people. But sometimes out of the blue, she just says no to this person.
Yes.
And then someone told me, that's her, expressing herself.
Yeah. It's she has gotten there because children listen to their instinct so loudly or so much than us guys. Because us guys now we've grown and there are many things that are happening, and then you have thoughts to try and shut that. But that is usually like our alarm system. So for them, that's what protects them because they don't have so much data.
Yeah.
To know that this is not a good person or these are the questions I need to ask. Yeah. So a lot of times we want to take back that no. We also want to take back our sense of safety because the other thing that sexual violation does, or even physical violation in children, it shifts their sense of safety to danger. In this sense, it's like they get more attracted to danger and chaos than being in safe places.
Yes.
Because the violation happened in a safe place. Do you understand? So them showing up in risky spaces or risky behavior, sometimes it's usually subtle ways of quitting life. There's a Christian psychologist, you should check him out. His name is Dan Allender. He talks about it in his book, To Be Told. So To Be Told is a book that helps you learn how to own your story and understanding your story through the perspective of God and the story that He's telling in your life.
Yeah.
Where you're able to integrate all the things that have happened in your life and integrate them and like use them, or rather live your life to the fullest with whatever, everything that happened to you. Like God has a way of orchestrating these things. I'm not saying that God, that's the only way he can make your life beautiful. No. Evil also exists.
Yeah.
But God somehow, I know it's a controversial conversation, but he has a way of transforming that which the evil one has thrown your way to work out for your good. So in that book, Dan talks about how survivors of childhood trauma tend to be, it's like death calls you. You'll just notice that they engage in very risky behaviors unknowingly. It's subconscious. It's like death calls you. Like the things that you do, and it looks like boldness. The things that you do, people, like regular people wouldn't do, you know. But when you heal your trauma, it resets your brain to like the correct signals. So I'll give you an example. Like for me, mine was, I was never afraid walking out at night. Like 10 p.m., 11, I was not afraid of walking at night. Remember, my mom would be so worried. She'd be like, something can happen to you. Madam, like things happened.
Things already happened.
Things happened during the day.
Yeah.
In safe environments, you know. So I don't think there's anything that can happen to me at night. What I didn't know is my brain had shut. My sense of safety had shifted.
Yeah.
And I remember even fantasies I had in my mind were fantasies of walking somewhere in the wilderness, in the bushes. And actually, but they used to hike Ngong Hills alone.
Isn't that dangerous?
No, it's adventurous. Okay, now it's dangerous. It's,
I
right now.
heard that people were killed and dumped in the forest or something like that. So I would imagine that it's very
so
dangerous.
right now, by the way, I think because of the economy and how things are, people truly get robbed there nowadays.
Is that only in Ngong Forest or everywhere even?
No, that's Ngong Hills.
Ngong Hills.
I can't dare walk in Ngong Forest.
Yeah.
There, by the way, I think 1 kilometer
1 kilometer
is enough to just enough to just disappear
What about
me or
Karura
something.
Forest?
I don't feel safe in forests.
Okay.
I think what the hills do to me, because you see in forest you can't see the other end, but in a hill or a mountain you can see the other end.
Yeah.
You get. So somehow the safety, even if it's a risky thing. Forests, I find them dangerous. I don't feel safe in forests.
Yeah.
I don't feel safe in forests. Yeah. So that's the other thing that gets switched or changes your sense of safety. Yeah, it does change. But healing restores a lot.
You said that
Did I answer your question?
you're answering the questions as we go along. There's something here that you said that left me wondering. So you say that God sometimes throws things your way to, I'm paraphrasing what you said, throws things your way to make your life better. Is that what you meant?
No, he will orchestrate that which the enemy throwed your way. This is how I view life. There's a story that God is telling.
Okay.
And the story is like him proving himself that he's a loving, kind God and that his laws can be followed. But then he has an enemy who's actually one of his children who rebelled. Lucifer, who ended up becoming Satan.
Yeah.
So all along, God has been telling this story. I am a loving, I can be trusted. I'm a loving person, I can be trusted. My laws are not grievous. You can follow my commandments.
Yeah.
And how he does that is he shows you easy ways of following him or obeying him. Like he's given you all the powers that you need to follow him and obey him. So because the enemy is smart, like he lived with God and, beside his throne, what he does is just like the perpetrators, he will orchestrate things in our lives, or he will cause things in our lives to get us mostly in childhood.
Yeah.
So he will see the Joab is going to exist in a particular generation. This is going to be a great man. Somehow, I don't know how, but I know some things he's allowed to know spiritually.
Why do I think that the devil doesn't know anything about my life or my future?
Oh, really?
I think so.
He just knows that he perhaps may not know the details, but he knows people who will be powerful in different generations. How he gets them, he won't get you in adulthood.
Okay.
So it begins from your grandfather or from your father.
Yeah.
So there are habits or things that are instilled in them.
Mhm.
So either your grandfather or your father goes through something that causes them to cope in ways that would alter their functionality
Yeah.
or their view towards God.
Mhm.
If they don't succeed in that, then now they attack you directly as a child. Either you grew up in an environment where you're not loved or supported, either your parents have their marriage collapses, or you get violated, or you just grow up in a way that that sets you up not to believe in God or not to live a godly life.
Okay.
You understand?
Mhm.
What maybe he knows or he doesn't know is he would think that because now you're living that life, so God will abandon you and will never use you. God in his own way, because he's telling his story. I know we usually ask, why can't he just come and transform everything, and why can't he prevent all these things from happening? Because when he do that, he will be confirming what the devil keeps claiming, that he's what's the word? He's a dictator. The other word is going away. My vocabularies have
I will
disappeared.
promise you this, Faith. I will be a dictator if my daughter's safety is is at risk.
So
And that is one bit I've never understood about God.
yes,
Having
yes.
the power, but not being willing
Not-
to use
yes.
it against the person
The-
who's harming his children.
Yeah.
Simply because he wants to be a fair God. I don't see how that is fair.
I get it, and I agree with you, because his way of justice, even for me, I think I just rest in his heart. Those ones of, there sometimes I'm like, it's okay even when it's not okay. But then there are times I'm like, no, this one, I don't know. This one, I don't know. Especially when it comes to justice, because a lot of times, even when you report, victims are never served. A small percentage get to be served justice, because for a survivor, the only evidence they have is their story.
Yeah.
Because you see some of them, like now for me, where am I going to collect evidence? And if I want to start, pressing charges now. So you find that you live with that ache forever. The ache of, because as a human being, you want to know that justice has been served. You want to see that person getting hurt.
You've heard of the Me Too movement that
Yes.
was in the US
Yes.
some time back, or
Yes.
the developed world some time back.
Yes.
And there were victims who underwent some experiences many years ago, and I feel like justice was served to them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So do you
That
think,
was powerful. That was powerful.
So do you think that is not applicable here? Maybe first of all, how did that happening affect your perspective?
Which
Or-
one? The one for
Yeah,
the
so
Me Too.
when the Me Too movement was in full
But
force.
it took a system. It wasn't just one person.
Yeah,
It took a system, but it took one person persisting
yeah,
until having voices in the right places as well. By voices in the right places is, I love how when, like, even for me, I wanted to do law, by the way, at some point. But my point was to just, like, revenge.
from
just
where
go
I stand,
fight for girls and fight for women and for children because of their vulnerability.
but I don't see anything wrong with that, though.
I know, but for me, it was coming from a point of, now I'm at a better place. I'm at a different place to advocate. Before then, it was at a bitter place.
Okay.
It was bitter, like those ones. It was ugly. Then I didn't even want to hear anything about grace or God.
Yeah.
So there's that. There are many people, by the way, who are in the law space, and they truly are fighting for survivors.
Yeah.
There are those who are in the like forensic space as well. And you see, now for them, they're not just there because they're employed. They're there truly fighting for lives because they know what it means. And then there are those of us who are in the psychology field. So we not only support people to get well, but we also psycho-educate families and schools
Yeah.
and churches to also bring in the preventive measure, if if you can say that. Yeah, so there's that. So there are aspects of this conversation that which I think that anger is okay because God doesn't shame us for it. And he has promised that justice is his. I don't know how it's going to look like, but he has promised that justice is his. At least he gives me peace over that. But for a long time, I lived demanding for
Justice.
yeah. I lived demanding for justice. And so back to that conversation, how Satan now, he probably knew that if I lived a good life and knew God from a tender age, perhaps I would have done so much for the Lord growing up through my influence. And he just made sure, not one, just made sure we have to bury this one. This one is not going to live a free life,
Yeah.
But how I see God is giving me, and in the same scripture that I said in Isaiah that says he gives beauty for ashes, he goes ahead to say that for your shame he's going to give you double honor. So what I see God doing is bringing healing to my life. And again, I think there's a scripture in Psalms that says God is calling us to be voice to the voiceless. May took it personally,
Yeah.
I'm like, I have a big voice, I'm going to use it.
For the voiceless.
Yeah, for the voiceless. And to just shame, because Jesus shamed shame. So speaking for those who can't speak for themselves. And when we speak, Joab, we give other people permission to speak for themselves, to own their voices. They're like, oh,
I can actually do this.
I have a voice, so I can speak, Yeah, that she's one of us,
Have you ever had people who got a voice simply because of you sharing your story? I know you shared it in some place. How does that, what outlook does that give to you? And does it give you any push to want to continue to push this further?
So that's what led me to do psychology.
Okay.
Because I first talked about it in 2019. And after that, people would come to me, like mothers in their 60s. There's a lady, but she was in her 70s. She just came and told me, Baba, Santi kwa kuongea, thank you for speaking.
Where was the first time that you spoke about this openly?
2019.
Like where
was
was
in a
it?
church.
Okay.
It was in a church.
What was the setting like?
It was a Sabbath. So every year there's a Sabbath, a children ministry Sabbath for praying for children at risk.
Yeah.
A lot of times the photos that you'll see in that bulletin are children in Turkana, in dry areas.
Who are at risk of hunger and disease. Lack of resources.
Yeah. But you see, for me, I cannot talk about what I can't connect with. For me, things have to make sense. Things have to be relevant. So I remember when I agreed, and then I was like, orphans, praying for orphans, children in the orphanage. Madam, like, children at risks are your babies who are vulnerable in your homes and at school and at church.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm
So
going to
the
take
vulnerable
this.
are around us, actually.
Yeah. And they said, I'm going to talk about it. I was shook because I was like, yo, man, what if I collapse? So shame came over, but then I was like, God, you know what? I think it's time I did this.
Yeah.
Because I think the first time, when I talked about it to a friend of mine, she's an older friend, in 2017, she told me, but Faith, I think you'll help many children because of this experience. Made us like, what children? Who is going to talk about what? No, I'm not gonna. No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But then, I think because my healing, so what I haven't told you is after talking to that elder, I began my healing journey in reading books. I couldn't afford therapy then, so I just looked for information online. I would read things, I would listen to other post stories. And when I heard some woman talk about, she was actually a pastor's wife, she talked about her experience. It empowered me. That one gave me a voice. And since then, I can say it saved my life.
Yeah.
So since then, I somehow said, did I vow? I said, yeah, I think I would love to give a voice to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So when that Sabbath came, before I spoke to the parents, I spoke to the children first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just told them, today the Sabbath is focused on this, and we all are vulnerable people, and there are things that God would want us to know to keep us safe. So after speaking to the children, I transitioned to the parents, to the
So
adults.
your testimony was basically your sermon to the parents then.
Yeah. Because now after talking, you know how people can just be listening to you. Maybe they're like, now this Gen Z.
Because you'd pass for
they
Gen
go
Z.
like, this Gen Z. I'm just assuming. Or they're like, oh, now this
Yeah.
young person. What are these things she's saying from the pulpit, Because sometimes it's like a taboo in our community, But then I think the moment I said, the reason I'm sharing this with you is because if my mother knew this when I was this age, she would have introduced me to this conversation early, or if I would have heard about it in church, this and this wouldn't have happened. So
Yeah.
their eyes, now they
Popped.
now they got interested. And I could pick a few faces crying. And then after that, now people would come to talk to me. So Meda was like, yo, what do I do with them? Because it's not enough to just tell them thank you for sharing or hugging them and tell them it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
So that's when now I intentionally began taking trainings on how to support survivors of sexual trauma.
Do you offer counseling services right now
I do.
professionally?
I do.
So we're going to put links to how you can reach Faith on
Yeah.
the description to this video. And if you've undergone this sort of trauma or any trauma for that matter, I think Faith could be in a position to help. As we're finishing here, earlier on, we talked about conversations that we can have with children to establish a safe environment where they can probably be protected from something like this happening to them. So what does that look like? I know people call you teacher Faith out in the public spaces because you are very friendly to children and you're a teacher of children.
Yeah.
But I guess these conversations are between parents and their children.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
So it depends on the age, but it also goes back to the parent. And part of the questions I usually ask parents is, how was sex introduced to you? Who did it? How did you feel? So sex could be, was it a conversation was it a sex ed, or was it an engagement like sexual intercourse? Because what we haven't dealt with, we pass on. So how we view sex or how sex was introduced to us, a lot of times, that's how we introduce it to our children. The reason why you find it hard to engage with them, it's the shame around it. So when we have addressed our own and sat with the beauty of sex and us as sexual beings, then we can transfer that to the children around us. So so the conversation needs to be age appropriate. By this I mean, depending on, but do not look down upon these children, by the way, because what we don't tell them, Disney World will.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and sometimes it's not something that is aligned with the values that you want to pass on to them. So what you do, the basics, after you have addressed it with yourself, you can actually bring in a professional to help you with that.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is just how we name eyes, nose, ears, hair, hands, feet. We name every body part. Because why do we teach them the eyes and the legs? Then we leave out the bum and their genitalia. So we need to tell them and their functions. When we begin this conversation early, as children grow, they'll keep having curiosity. So curiosity is what will spark conversations. But these conversations can only happen if we have a family culture where we do things together.
Yeah.
So like you're cooking, your baby is there with her, whatever. Or usually have regular walks, or just something. Just have something that you do together. It opens them up to conversations. A lot of times it's not like a sitting on the bed kind of conversation. Many times it comes when they're doing things.
Yeah.
They'll just ask you, and what is this? And what is this? So you call the genitalia with their rightful names. Because you see how sometimes you either call it a cricket or a dudu or a thing. Then they go biting other people with their thing. It's a thing. It's an animal. They go scaring other people with their animal. But if you call it what it is, tell them the sensitivity it has, they learn how to care for
At what
themselves.
age are you telling them all this?
Karen knows so much.
Okay.
She's a brilliant child.
My daughter is 2 years old now, 2 years, 3 months.
Karen is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good time to begin the conversation.
Okay.
So as soon as a
So
child,
as early as 2?
even below that, because there are children who start speaking before they start walking.
Okay. So,
So
are
what
you
you're
saying that the
doing,
moment they start
you're not
speaking,
seeking. You're not telling them graphically. Okay, so this. I mean, you don't go graphic. You just tell them, this is your nose, and this is your hand, and this is your vulva. It's for what? We use it when you're going to the toilet. Like use it to pee, and then the anus for pooping, and then we tell them how important it is for us to take care of it. And nobody touches your vulva or your penis. Okay? Unless mommy or daddy or whoever is washing you, no playing with it. Or unless you're sick and someone needs to check you. So just like that. Sometimes it could be a bathroom conversation,
yeah.
you know. Sometimes they'll even be telling you, oh, look at my vulva, it's this color, or it's like this, like this. Those are normal conversations. Then you tell them, these are conversations we have with daddy or mommy. Okay? There are conversations. And then you tell them, if someone touches you in this way, you tell me.
Yeah.
Okay? Always come and tell daddy or mommy anything that happens to you. I'm not going to beat you. So that we have created a safe environment. They can come to you with that conversation. If it's sick, come and tell me. Right?
Yeah.
So after that, as they keep growing, when they're ready, there are questions they will keep asking. When they're ready, there are questions they'll keep asking. Another thing is when you're, I think there are videos you could watch with them. There are books you could read with them. Or when you're talking about the creation story, and God created Adam and Eve, male and female, you help them understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, daddy is a boy, mommy is a girl. So slowly by slowly, as they advance in age, their curiosity increases, and so does the conversation keep advancing. Yeah. That's just that. I mean, can't dive so deep into it, but I think that's a good place to begin from.
You know, Faith, sitting here and listening to you, this conversation has been so deep and very personal. You've shared very intimate details about your experiences. I have felt all sorts of emotions seated here. I have felt anger. I have felt sadness. I have felt some sort of rejuvenation in, after continuing to talk to you. And at the same time, I feel like there is hope for communities, especially, bring people together.
Yeah.
And hopefully avoiding things like this happening
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for sharing your story.
Thank you for
And
listening.
And thank you very much for hanging out with me. And hopefully this is going to help someone out there to understand how to deal with something like this or avoid something like this happening to them.
I hope so too.
As we're landing this plane, there's a culture that we have over here on the Couch Connect. When guests like you come over here, I treat them like presidents. And I borrowed this from the presidency of the United States, whereby the guy who's in office will always leave a letter to the next guy who's coming into office. And so since what we do over here is ask questions and have conversations with each other, the guest who was here most recently left a question for you.
Okay.
And I'm also going to give you an opportunity to leave a question for the next guest on the show. This question is very interesting, but I'm going to give it to you and you can take it, in whatever direction you want to take it.
Okay.
Julius Caesar or Genghis Khan, and why?
Oh my goodness. Let me see the other name. I think I have no clue.
Julius Caesar.
So the other person is who?
Genghis Khan.
Who's that?
Genghis Khan, I believe, was one of the warriors who was there in the kingdom that preceded the Chinese kingdom. Yeah, and he went around, gathering people together, killing villagers who wouldn't agree with
With
his
him?
leadership. His leadership. He was trying
Oh,
to
really?
coalesce the kingdom together.
Okay.
He was a dictator.
Oh,
Of
but
some
Caesar
sort.
was also a dictator.
Yes.
Neither.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
So this is what I see. Now I'm curious. I'd love to know what happened in their childhood. Because such characters don't just exist. And I feel sometimes we form them. We enable them.
Yeah.
You see, and I feel it's usually when we also have our unhealed experiences, we tend to lean towards the bully so that they don't attack us.
Mm-hmm.
So when we heal our lived experiences, painful lived experiences, then we will stop enabling such characters in our lives, and we could also influence them to become better humans. Yeah.
True. I hope that, the conversation that we just had and all the response we've had here spark more conversations of this nature in spaces where they haven't happened before. But here's an opportunity for you to write your question to the next guest on the show.
Oh, gladly.
So take a few moments, and whenever you're ready, you can write it down.
Okay.
Faith, thank you
Yes.
very much for hanging out with me.
It was a pleasure.
It's been a wonderful, beautiful conversation. Folks who haven't had this yet, this was a second recording of this conversation because we did it the first time and the sound was corrupted. But because I think it was very important, I asked to call you back because sometimes I feel guilty asking people to come back because I lost their footage or that, any data of whatever sort, because I feel like maybe they don't have the time. But I'm
Yeah.
really thankful that you made the time to come out here and share this story with us.
Thank you.
So is there anything at all you'd like to tell folks before we sign out?
Oh,
Like a parting shot?
yeah.
Go on.
So September is National Prevention Awareness Month. I hope now that word won't make your video get
That's all.
censored. Anyway, and there are many people who battle with suicidality silently. Just remind you that if you're wondering if things do get better, things do get better. And we can give people the power to continue living life by being kind extravagantly. Just how the Bible says in Galatians 6:9, let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. So things do get better. You are not broken. And God can give you the promise that he has said. He gives beauty for ashes, and for the shame that you have borne in life, he will give you double honor for it. I don't know how that looks like, but yes, he can do it. And I'm sorry if you have experienced childhood trauma and you have to go through the pain of healing. Healing is possible. Keep trying again and again. Do it according to your pace. And see you on the other side.
I'm going to pry one last time.
Okay.
Have you had to deal with thoughts of suicide?
Yes, I have. Yeah, since childhood.
How are you able to get yourself out of those thoughts? Seated with you here means that someone you dealt with them.
It hasn't gone completely, but being on meds help.
Okay.
I had to be on psychiatric medication
Mm-hmm.
because I live with PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder.
Is that the chronic illness you're talking about?
The chronic illness is endometriosis and PCOS.
Okay.
So the suicide began from childhood, and I think in besides talk therapy, because sometimes talk therapy doesn't help, especially if the therapist is not trauma informed. It can really be intense. Like I remember there's a time I was leaving therapy and I was still feeling so horrible because I'm like, if therapy ain't even helping, why am I even trying, But I remember that day, I think it's just God who spoke to that therapist. When I was walking, she was like, oh, I'll walk you out. So in walking, she was going to buy something or some M-Pesa. I don't know whether that was an excuse. She just stood and hugged me and told me, don't harm yourself. I'm here for you. Yeah, and that held me. Like, besides even the talk therapy, besides even the work we were doing, just that humanly aspect that she brought in, which I know sometimes, like you're taught in school not to engage in such, but wisdom led her to do that, and that kept me going. So, therapy does help. Being on medication also helps. Finding a community that just loves you for you helps. And so as you heal, you truly now get to see or feel the love that people have for you, because a lot of times the thoughts are usually like you're a burden and nobody cares and just disappear and it won't matter. No, it will matter. It does matter that you exist. There are people who love you, and just you existing, and even without doing anything, makes a difference in life. Yeah. I think for me, the thought that I usually hold on to, because every episode is different, but the one that I remember that I held on to was I heard of a friend who had died by suicide, and it really broke me. I was like, but you know what, there's no need to continue life. And I really struggled with it usually feels like a panic attack at that time. It's so intense. You have no control. Joab, you have no control at that time. You try to regulate yourself, it's so difficult. And so that day, I think I just asked God, does it really matter? Like, it's okay even if I just perish forever. Because you know how they say it in church that when you die by suicide, you kill yourself and you'll perish forever. I was ready for that. I was like I've suffered enough in life. I don't mind. Because even the eternal torment is not like you'll be tormented eternally. It will be just death and ashes and complete, as in you're gone. Like, I was okay with that level. But then, aspect that God brought to my mind was Jesus died so that you don't have to endure that eternal death. So it's like, okay, fine. Then just give me the power to live, because living is harder than death. Now I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Yeah. So it's usually very intense. Yeah. So it's a journey. Sometimes we think everything is okay. Then suddenly it comes back. Yeah. But right now, at least I have support. So when it checks in, I just check back to therapy. Walking helps. Taking long walks help. Doing art helps. And just being with people who feel like home really helps. Yeah. But it's a hard path. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for
I'm sorry.
asking. Yeah. I feel like saying such is life. Probably that is me struggling to take in your compassion. But yeah, thank you. So there are many other people out there who perhaps aren't where I'm at. And that's why sometimes I write, there's a blog I contribute to. So sometimes I write because I know just how I would look for information online. I know somebody else would also look for information online. I actually did a series on suicide prevention last year, September. Could actually share a link over there as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, if you made it this far, I think it's because you did find this episode not only empowering, but also educational, and hopefully you left here informed. I promise you I'm going to continue trying to bring you more informational episodes. So if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to this channel, and remember to tell your friends to tell their friends. I've been hanging out with Faith God today. Faith God is also known as Teacher Faith. I'm going to put links to her socials on the description to this video below. Faith is a psychologist, but also a children's teacher. And she's a trauma survivor and a psychologist. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, you have said
Okay.
that. And yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So reach out to her if you want some help or if you just want to hang out with her. Till next time, do take care.
Thank you.
Kwaheri.